Welcome to the Songbirds Radio Hour. Tonight, we're so excited to have one of our biggest supporters of our Guitars for Kids program, the legendary troubadour and Songbirds hero, Steve Earle.
Hey, pretty baby, are you ready for me? Yeah, it's your good rockin' daddy down from Tennessee. I'm just that off from about San Antonio with the radio blasting and the bird dog on.
We met Steve in 2017 when he came to the Songbirds Guitar Museum to drool over the collection. The day you arrived, we pulled cool guitar after cool guitar. A one-of-a-kind 1952 Esquire? Check. A 1944 Martin D45? Check. The first Telecaster ever made? Check. At some point during all this guitar porn, I told Steve about our Guitars for Kids program and how we award thousands of free guitars and free music therapy to kids across the South. His response was, "Man, that's cool. I'd love to help out with that." So he gave me his number of his manager and told me to call, and we get a fundraiser show lined up.
Everybody told me you can't get far on $37 in a Jap guitar. Now I'm smoking into Texas with a hammer down and a rockin' little combo from a guitar town.
Now, I know that sounds cut and dry, but lots of musicians have mentioned that they would love to do a fundraiser for the Songbirds Foundation, but very few of them have actually followed up. So a week went by, and I called Steve's manager, expecting to get the runaround. You know, something like, well, Steve can't make that work, or he has a conflict, or something. But I got the exact opposite. Yep, Steve told me about how great this program is. What date do you want to do the fundraiser?
In a Motel 10. When my boots hit the boards, I'm a brand new man with my back to the riser and make my stand.
After getting all the details hammered out and the date set for May 2018, I was still worried that it might all fall through, all the way up until the day before the show when Steve texted me and asked what tunes he should play for the show. He wanted to make it extra special. How was I actually supposed to make that type of decision? How many colossal songs does he have? I mean, Guitar Town, The Devil's Right Hand, 6 Days on the Road, Tannytown, Hillbilly Highway, Copperhead Road. How was I gonna choose? Luckily, he saved me from myself and suggested that maybe he could just play the whole Copperhead Road album since it was the 30th anniversary. How could I possibly argue with that?
Well, my name's John Lee Pettimore. Same as my daddy and his daddy before.
The show was fantastic and went like clockwork. We raised over $25,000 for our Guitars for Kids program, and to top it all off, Steve has shown up every subsequent year to do another fundraiser. Before we get to tonight's show, I want to say this. People like Steve Earle are a rare breed, a person who cares deeply about folks, enough to give up his time to make sure others get to experience music. He is a person who believes that music is a sacred shared experience, an experience that everyone, no matter their background, should be able to participate in, to create, to empower, to share love. We would not be able to do what we do without big-hearted folks like Steve Earle. So, with a heart full of Songbirds gratitude, let's get on with the show. For our show this evening, Steve has agreed to let us play a selection of his live performance at our 2023 Guitars for Kids fundraiser. In addition, we'll be playing some of our backstage VIP interview, including questions from some of his biggest fans. To all of you at home, thanks for hanging out with us for the next hour or so, and we've got some killer music from Steve Earle coming right up.
I so far from grace with God where no doctor can relieve me. If I'm buried beneath the sod where the angels won't see me, let me go, boys. Let me go, boys. Let me go down in the mud where rivers all run dry. This land was always ours, was the proud land of our fathers. Belongs to us and them, and not any of the others. Let them go, boys. Let them go, boys. Let them go down in the mud where rivers all run dry. Buried mid-sea where no murder ghost can haunt me. If I rock upon the waves, then no corpse can lie upon me. Coming up three boys, coming up three boys. Let me go down in the mud where rivers all run dry. If I should fall from grace with God where no doctor can relieve me, if I'm buried beneath the side where the angels won't see me, let me go, boys. Let me go down in the mud where rivers all run dry. Thanks. I like to sing that song every once in a while because I think Shane MacGowan's one of the best songwriters that ever walked the planet. And nobody can understand it when he sings it, so. Now if I can just get everybody to understand this song. About the time my daddy left the pot of bed pour, saw my first pistol in the general store. General store. I was 13, thought it was the finest I ever had seen. That's the back of heaven, son, that when I grew up, Mama dropped a dozen and she really blew up. Really blew up. Didn't understand. Mama says a pistol is a devil's right hand. Devil's right hand. The devil's right hand. Mama says a pistol is the devil's right hand. My first pistol was a cap and ball coat. She just found a line, but you load 'em out slow. Load 'em out slow. Soon I find out, get you into trouble, but you can't get yet. Then I went and got myself a Colt 45. Call a peacemaker, but never knew why. Never knew why. Didn't understand. Mama says a pistol is a devil's right hand. Devil's right hand. Devil's right hand. Mama says a pistol is a devil's right hand. Devil's right hand. The devil's right hand. Mama says a pistol is a devil's right hand. Caught him out cheating and I shut the door down. Shut the door down. She man pal never touched his holster, never had a chance to trial. Trials in the morning and the drug me out of bed. I smiled, pleaded not guilty, I said not guilty, I said got the wrong man. Nothing touched your trigger but the devil's right hand. Devil's right hand. The devil's right hand. Mama says a pistol is the devil's right hand. The devil's right hand. The devil's right hand. Nothing touch the trigger but the devil's right hand. Mama says a pistol is a devil's right hand.
You're listening to the Songbirds Radio Hour. Our guest this episode is Steve Earle.
Unlike the guitars in this room, this is a pretty new guitar. It still thinks it's a tree, so it's one of those. Just whenever hope was gone, I should have known you'd come along. I can't believe I ever doubted you. My old friend, the blues, another lonely night, a nameless town. Don't take me first, you come around. I know I can always count on you. My old friend, the blues, lovers leaving friends, let it down. You're the only sure thing I have found. No matter what I do, I'll never lose. My old friend, the blues, let me hide my weary heart in you. My old friend, the blues. Ain't lots of children in this town. Drive down too late and he turned back around. You go to school and you learn to read and write. So you can walk into the counter bank, sign away your life. I work at the railroad station on the interstate. Pumping gasoline and counting out the state plates. They asked me to hop on into Memphis, so where's the nearest beer? They don't even know there's a town around here now. Someday I'm probably gonna let go, 'cause I know there's a better way. And I wanna know what's over that rainbow. I'm gonna get out of here someday. Someday. Now my brother went to college, could play football. I'm still angry and I'm a little bit small. I got me a 67 Chevy, she low and sleek and black. Someday I put her on that interstate and never look back. Someday I'm finally gonna let go, 'cause I know there's a better way. And I wanna know what's over that rainbow. I'm gonna get how to kiss someday. I'm gonna get how to kiss someday. Someday. Hey, pretty baby, are you ready to make it? You're good rockin' daddy down Tennessee. Just down off some Bama San Antonio, with the radio blasting the bad doggone. There's a speed trap up in summertime. No local yokel gonna shut me down. Me and the boss got this rig unwound up a couple thousand miles from a guitar town. Nothing ever happened in my hometown. I ain't the kind of just hang around. But I heard someone calling my name one day. Follow that voice down the lost highway. Everybody tell me you can't get far on $37 in the trap guitar. Watch! Now smoking in the Tesla with a hammer down, rocking a little combo from a guitar town. Hey, pretty baby, when you know it ain't my fault, love to hear the steel bells humming on the asphalt. Well, in the middle of the night in a truck stop, stumbling to rest, wonder why I don't stop. Gotta keep rocking while I still can. Got a 2-pack cab at a Motel 10. When the boots hit the boards, I'm a brand new man. Back to the riser and make my stand. Hey, pretty baby, won't you hold me tight? Loading up and rolling out here tonight. One of these days when you're through the line, I'll take you back with me to a guitar town.
Hey folks, we're going to get right back to the music. I just wanted to remind everyone at home that you're listening to the Songbirds Radio Hour. We've got a few more songs here from Steve Earle's benefit performance recorded live at Songbirds on July 11th, 2023. Afterwards, we'll air a selection from his backstage VIP interview, which we recorded earlier that same night.
So well, then I read right back. Papa left mama when I was quite young. Said now one of these days you will follow me, son. Whoa. I ain't ever satisfied. is my world. Heaven, I ran off with my backstreet girl. And my backstreet baby could not be true. Ever standing on the boulevard and I'm thinking about you. Whoa, I ain't ever satisfied. Whoa, I ain't ever satisfied. I got an empty feeling deep inside. I'm going over to the other side. Last night I dreamed I made it to the promised land. Come on. I was standing at the gate with a key in my hand. Come on, come on. St. Peter said, come in, boo, you're finally home. I said, no, thank you, Pete, and I was moving along. Satisfied.
This is the Songbirds Radio Hour, and that was Steve Earle playing I Ain't Ever Satisfied during our annual Guitars for Kids fundraiser. Each year, Steve takes time out of his schedule to come play a benefit show for the Songbirds Foundation and our Guitars for Kids program. This year, Steve also participated in a backstage interview where our VIP guests got to chat with him about songwriting, the power of music, and how music has impacted his son, John Henry. This is the Songbirds Radio Hour.
Hey.
Woo! Y'all welcome Steve Earle.
How are you?
Hey man, I was just telling them what we're doing. I was telling them we're recording this. I got a few questions, and then we'll let them ask questions, and then we can just kind of wing it here for a little while.
All
right. So let's just start out by talking about you're here doing this as a fundraiser for the Songbirds Guitars for Kids program. We give away thousands of guitars every year. Talk a little bit about why you think music education is important.
Oh, I mean, it's music in general. There's a lot of statistics that have to do with that. You can go there. Just kind of been proven that kids that didn't help me very much, but most kids that have some musical education do better in math because of the relationship between them. And music's like just one of those things that you can sing things that you can't say. And I think there's just something about music and being in your life one way or the other. And the thing about guitars in particular is it still, people have been predicting that they're going to go away for years and years. It's the most democratic instrument ever. Pretty much anybody can learn how to play a little bit in a pretty short period of time, and I think that's why people keep coming back to it again. The difference between human beings and animals is not an opposable thumb. It's the fact that we create and consume art. It's not, these things we call electives in school. They're not really electives. They're absolutely necessary. They're a part of. They should be part of our education system. We've removed them for the most part. It's just we don't want to fund it anymore. And programs like this, which just literally, puts guitars into kids' hands. And the other cool thing is you can get a lot better guitar you know, when you start out than you could when I started. I had some guitars I had to wrestle with when I first started playing.
Had those strings like 6 inches off.
Yeah, I had my first guitar was a Suzuki. I didn't know whether to ride it or play it, and I didn't.
Yeah.
But it was a hand-me-down from my uncle, and but it's just, you know, it's one of those deals. It's just music's important. It's art in general is important, and guitar music in and of itself is just, it's portable. You know, we had a piano in my house, but you can't hitchhike with them. So it was the guitar that stuck with me when I left home.
Nobody'd pick you up. They'd just be like,
no,
that guy's got a piano with him. We can't.
Yeah.
Can't pick that guy up. So we also do a lot of music therapy. Here we have certified music therapists that do a lot of great work with kids. We actually, Alex, who's here, he worked with us. He now works here. And he's on the spectrum, and he's a great guitar player and just an awesome. I thought he was in here, but he's not. But anyway, tell us a little bit about you. You have a son who has autism.
13, John Henry has autism. It's, you know, people talk about the spectrum, and I don't know, this stuff about different levels of autism. I really think of it a little differently than that. Basically, the bumper sticker is, you know, one person with autism, you know, one person with autism. It's basically. It is, you know, there's people that want to, including like verbal people and functional people with autism. They get upset because when we start to describe it as a defect or as a disease or as you know, a disability. The truth is, for my son, he can't speak, and so it is a disability. And it's his life is going to be different than it would have been if he had 27 words when he was 14 months and none when he was 19 months, that happens a lot. And but music is like, there's very few things that you can sort of count on with people with autism, but music getting through to folks with autism is pretty consistent. I haven't ever seen a kid that didn't like music. Sometimes you have to be careful about the volume. Sometimes you have to be careful about certain types of music, and they can be critics sometimes. They'll you know, John Henry listens to, he doesn't have any words still to this day. He's 13, but he has like 100 melodies easily, and some of them are mine, some of them are, I think he makes up, but a lot of his classical stuff, because he had classical baby just like anybody does nowadays. I was like cooking when he was probably 7 or 8. I'm cooking dinner. He's on his iPad, which he navigates pretty well, and just watching videos or listening. He listens to more music these days than he watches videos. That's changed in the last probably 2 years. It's like the ratio is way weighted towards listening to music now. He does still watch videos, but mostly it's listening to music. And then he's just sitting there, and he goes, all of a sudden I hear da 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 da. Only now it's like da 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 da. So, you know, it's changed up. But he just. It's a big deal, and we finally, because I raised money for his school. He goes to a school called the Keswell School, and I raised a big chunk of their budget, and I finally kind of had a rock star hissy fit a couple of years ago, because they did not have a music therapist, you know, full time, and we do now, and it's you know, the last couple of benefits have gone specifically to fund that, and he really looks for it. They always did music in school as best they could, but they've got a full-time music therapist now.
Well, we find that, I mean, the music therapy part of our program was it's one of the things we added last to the program when we first started 7 years ago, but it's become like one of the most powerful things that we do, to watch kids be able to go in. I think most people think about music therapy, they think about, we go to the hospital and we play guitar with kids, which we do some of that, but this is cognitive, goal-driven music therapy, where we're going in, working with a physical therapist to accomplish a set of goals, and it's amazing to see what kids can accomplish with this kind of you know, help. And
autism is a sensory processing disorder, and that means to some degree, information coming in gets corrupted or scrambled or whatever, or it changes. And the same thing going out. And John Henry's receptive language is pretty good. He's got a pretty good receptive vocabulary. If you don't have, he has some signs. He has, you know, we haven't been able to find a consistent way for him to communicate. Some signs, he uses Proloquo, which is a program on an iPad that's used with symbols, or you can put your own pictures into it. We use mostly photographs of things in his life, and he can tell you, it's time to go to the pool. But what he usually does to tell me he wants to go to the pool. I moved to a building in New York City a year ago, February, specifically to get him a swimming pool, because he's not quite a land creature. He would rather be in the water pretty much all the time. Swims great, and that's another thing that's fairly consistent. A lot of kids with autism are attracted to water. We got him swimming lessons because we were afraid not to, because he automatically goes to any water that he sees, whether it's an aquarium or a mud puddle or the ocean. So he needs to learn how to swim.
Yeah. He'd have fun here at our aquarium. Have you been to the Chattanooga aquarium?
Oh yeah, my kids grew up going to that aquarium. We'd drive down from Nashville to see that over the years.
Well, I got one more question, and then we'll open it up to some people out in the audience. But I have to ask, because Jerry Jeff Walker's one of my favorites.
Right.
And you got this great album. Maybe tell us a little about your tribute.
Yeah, I mean, I made a belatedly, like about 10 years after Towns died, I made a record of Towns Van Zandt songs. I was lucky I had good teachers. I met Towns when I was 17, and I met both Guy and Jerry Jeff I met Jerry Jeff when I was about 18, and Guy when I was 19. And, and Jerry Jeff was a big deal to me. I knew who he was long before I knew about Towns and Guy, even before he moved to Texas. So Jerry Jeff passed away during the lockdown, so nobody could really do anything. And then when we could do something, I was honored to be asked to sing My Old Man at his graveside, which I used to know the whole song. It's got about 19 verses, and I used to sing the whole thing, and I had to put it up on a piece of paper, and I said, I used to know this song by heart, but I guess it's on my other hard drive. And Buffett came up to me after the funeral and said, I'm stealing that line, and it's because it does become an issue at some point in your career as you get older. But when we were doing that, then we went to Lukenbach, and there was a concert out there, and I just sort of made the decision then to make this record, and I got Susan and Django and Jesse's blessing before I left there and started to work on the record, and I didn't have to learn very many of these songs. I knew most of them already, so it didn't take that much work.
It's great. It's a great album. All right, who's got a question out there in the audience?
Yeah, I was curious if you plan to write any more books. I really have enjoyed your writing. Another book. I really enjoyed your writing, and I was curious if you were planning on writing any more.
Yeah, I am. I mean, it's kind of, I'm working on 2 books by accident. I signed a deal several years ago, and talk about blown deadlines, but for 2 books, and it was basically I needed the money, and I had no desire or ambition to write a memoir at all. That's just, to me, that was just myself out of material, to go ahead and write something about me directly, because it's when you write, it's all about you. So it just seemed like a waste to me. But the memoir was worth more than any piece of fiction I could write, and I needed the money at the time, and
to buy guitars, right?
Huh?
To buy another guitar.
This was about more like keeping people from coming and getting my guitars. But I got out of jail, and 28 years ago, and I owed the IRS a bunch of money, and it took a long time to pay it off, and then I got it paid off, and then I had a really bad business manager that got me just as in debt with the IRS as I was before, and I've been married a few times, which is expensive, and so it was, it's about money, I mean, I bought guitars anyway, whether I could afford it or not. It's a disease, and I've got it, but it's not.
We don't know anything about that here.
Yeah, I made a deal to write a memoir and a novel, and for a certain amount, it was very heavily front-loaded monetarily towards the memoir, and I started to work on that. And I was doing okay with it. I got quite a bit done, but I've toured a lot, and I also wrote, a couple of, theater pieces and some other stuff along the way, some albums. The the way I've got my head around writing a memoir, I didn't want to write one. And what convinced me that I might be interested in doing it is Bob Dylan's book and Patti Smith's books. So I decided that what I knew could write was a book about recovery. And I started to work on it. And then Justin died after I'd been working on it for several years. And so that suddenly becomes a different book. And by that time, I recently, it's been almost 2 years ago, I sold all of my intellectual property up to now. I did what Bob Dylan did and Bruce did, and they were just paying these ridiculous multiples. And because of streaming and the way that music is consumed now, we're not getting paid what we should be for that right now. We're going to have to fight that battle, and that'll be fought by other people after I'm gone, probably, to get back to anywhere near what we were making from record sales, and the airplay royalties from radio, which that's going away too. So. I had the money. I had some money in the bank, more than I'd ever had, and I called my publisher, and I just couldn't keep working on that book. And I called him. I said, "Look, we can do one of two things. I can give you the money back because I have it, or we could flip the delivery of the two books." So I went to work on the novel at that point, and I've been working on the novel some since. I'm working on a musical of Tender Mercies with Daisy Foote, whose father, Horton Foote, wrote the original screenplay that's tracked for Broadway. And that's the main thing I've been working on since Ghost of West Virginia was finished.
Sounds like you're not busy at all.
No, it's like one of those things. And I'm a full-time single dad 9 months of the year. So that makes it, I drop a kid off at school. I get up, fix him breakfast, drop him off at school, and like run like a dog until 4 o'clock. I have to pick him up to try to get something done. That's what I do every day.
Well, there's a question right here.
I noticed on your show you reference the Beatles.
Right.
Much more than you do Elvis.
Right.
Would you say they're a bigger influence to you?
So, I don't ever remember there not being an Elvis. And the first song I remember was Hound Dog, I think, and I sang it when I was a little kid. And I watched all those horrible movies and the few good ones, and I was an Elvis freak. And I lip synced Return to Sender, all that stuff. But the Beatles happened. My uncle, who was 5 years older than me, gave me my first guitar. The first records I ever had were all hand-me-downs from him. And he called me one night in February 1964 and said, "Make sure you watch the Ed Sullivan Show tonight." And by that time I was 8, or no, I was 9. And so it was just getting my hands on a guitar and around it seemed more real at that point. So it's more about the Beatles, but that's more about, and I backtracked to the Son Elvis stuff. I didn't know about that stuff until later, and I backtracked from Creedence Clearwater Revival and stuff like that to those early Elvis records, and then of course Chuck Berry. I got to Chuck Berry as much from the Beatles for covering Chuck Berry as from Chuck. I mean, Chuck Berry was still making records, but it was my ding-a-ling, and it wasn't like so. It's one of those deals.
We got time for one more.
So going back to writing, what is kind of your process for writing a song? Not going back to the books, but for a song.
There's not any difference for writing a song except for eventually a guitar is involved in it. I just try to write every day. There's been times in my life when I was like, I would have said, "Oh, I'm a morning writer. I'm a daytime writer," and then I was for a while a nocturnal writer. I was kind of a nocturnal creature. Was a lot of it. I was awake mostly in the dark, but now I write when I can because I'm a single parent. And it's just I write when I can do it. And technology's helped me out a lot because my handwriting is illegible. I don't know how I wrote 2 books because I type like a palsied sports writer. And it's like I started personal typing like typing 31 words a minute or 32 words a minute. The test I took the first day, and when I finished, I typed 26. So it's just... and my handwriting, I literally used to write stuff longhand because that's the way I wrote for years and years. Up until I started my life all over again. I got a computer for the first time, after I got out of jail in '94, and I started writing almost exclusively on computers. Now I write on my phone as much as I do anything else, and because the biggest advantage for me is Steve Jobs got me from beyond the grave. I've got all that stuff, and if I put something in notes on my phone, it's on my computer when I get home. I can just drag it into a document and keep going. So that part of it, and I record, I make all my demos in the same format, so it's all in one place. And I find that, and I don't lose stuff. I don't wake up in the morning and unable to decipher what it is I scribbled down in the middle of the night. That doesn't happen anymore. So it's evolved over the years when looking back on it, I was just doing whatever I had to do to write. The main thing about writing is you got to try your best to do it every day. And for me, that means trying to do as much as I can before John Henry wakes up, and then, and then just continue that. Hopefully that, a lot of stuff happens when you first wake up in the morning for people start talking to you, where you get too much input going. And I'm addicted to information, and I start turning the news on and all that kind of stuff. So I have a yoga practice, which that's been going on for about 7 years, 8 years, maybe a little longer. And that to make that work, I don't turn on any electronics now until at least I've done that. Whereas I used to turn the TV on immediately because I want to hear the news. And I've gotten a little more sick of the news than I was a few years ago. And I just, the yoga practices kept me from, protecting myself from some input until something comes out.
So do you, does it start with a tune, or does it start with a line, or a type of?
It depends. I've started with melodies. I've started with lines. I've started with, other people's melodies, and then had to write one of my own when I realized it. It's, you do whatever you have to do. It's not, I'm a folk singer, basically. What I do, I'm a post-Bob Dylan folk singer, though, and so it is literature, and it's literature on purpose. The bar's really, really high when I do it because of the way that it's the era that I learned how to do it, and it's like there were other people that were writing folk songs that were in that folk scene in New York and Boston, and they were good songwriters. Tom Paxton decided he was going to write a song a day for a year, and he did it. But they were reading the same things Bob was. They were reading French, like modernist poets, but they were still writing songs that sound like Woody Guthrie. Bob read that stuff and then suddenly one day wrote "A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall," and everything changed. And that's what I teach in my camp, and that's what I do that on purpose. I think of myself as a post-Bob Dylan songwriter, and I try to write songs that are literature.
Awesome. Well, I'd hate to cut it off here, but we want to make sure everybody we're going to sign some autographs and stuff. I want to make sure people have time before the show starts. So can we get a round of applause? Yes, thank you. You've been listening to an exclusive backstage interview with Steve Earle on the Songbirds Radio Hour. Up next, we've got a few more songs from his benefit show for our Guitars for Kids program recorded live in July 2023. Thanks to everyone for listening at home.
See what I could see. My mama told me never go. I'm damn near 22 years old. Sometimes I feel this holler swallow me. She went out to Gettysburg, went off with that new bow horse. I took off after dark. Long way down the county road, the night was clear, the moon was low. Down the where the blacktop highway starts. I went down to Tennytown. I went down to Tennytown. I went down to see what I could see. Everybody stared at me. You think that they ain't never seen a colored boy before. They jumped at me and called me names. They owed me short, but the sheriff came. I took off and ran through the dry goods store. I run down Division Street. Some of them boys followed me down to the railroad track. For them and I came back. Well, I got my old Randall knife. Cut that boy and I never did look back. I went down to Tennytown. I went down to Tennytown. I went down to see what I could see. I run like a bullet from a rabbit gun, back home to my bed. I come in from Gettysburg, her night new bow her. Boy, you look like hell's all she said. Well, a month went by without a word. Somebody down the holler heard about that boy that hung. I begged old man spend. I dropped my blood and ran the knife. He picked it up and thought it was the one. I went down to Tennytown. I went down to Tennytown. I ain't going back there anymore.
We're so happy to have you with us tonight listening to the Songbirds Radio Hour. Our guest is Steve Earle.
So, as always, this goes out to what's her name, wherever the hell she is. Was her daddy's little darling. Her mama's only child. They didn't understand it all when she took to running wild. She left town one day and never said goodbye. Left her hole in daddy's lap and a tear in mama's eye. Where we go wrong, now she's gone. She met a boy up in Kentucky. Charlie was his name. Just when he thought he got lucky, she stole his watch and chain. And she always kept on moving and she never wasted time. They said she left quite a string of broken hearts behind. Woke up alone, now she's gone. took my life like lightning, blew out the other end. But I still taste her kisses and I smell her perfume in the wind. If I could, you know, I would do it all again. She done me wrong, now she's gone.
Thanks for listening to the Songbirds Radio Hour. Our guest this episode is Steve Earle.
Thank you very much. Okay, same girl. Let's see. Different harmonica. Some girls are just better for songs than others. I have no explanation for that. It has nothing to do with the quality of the girl whatsoever, I promise. But this one was particularly good. I remember holding on to you. How long nights that I put you through. Somewhere there, I'm sure I made you cry. 'Cause I can't remember if we said goodbye. But I recall our loving nights down in Mexico. One place I may never go in my life again. Was I off somewhere or just too high? 'Cause I can't remember if we said goodbye. Only miss you ever now and then. It's like a soft breeze blowing up from the Caribbean. Most Novembers I break down and cry. 'Cause I
have a car. I love him nights down in Mexico. That's one place I'll never go in my life again. Was I out somewhere, or maybe just too high? But I can't remember if we said goodbye. Can't remember if we said goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Thanks. Thank you.
That does it for this episode of the Songbirds Radio Hour. Thanks so much for tuning in at home. You can find us here on WUTC the second Saturday of every month. And of course, a big thanks to Steve Earle. This episode was part of his annual benefit concert for our Guitars for Kids program. On our next episode, we'll be taking a deep dive into the Athens music machine with experts Chuck Reese and David Barbie, along with musical guests Monsoon. Songbirds Radio Hour is made possible through a grant from the Riverview Foundation. If you'd like to attend a live taping of the Radio Hour, please visit songbirdsfoundation.org for more information. This episode was produced and written by Reed Caldwell, live recording by James Snyder, additional thanks to Victoria Sauer, WUTC, and of course, Steve Earle. Directed, edited, and mixed by John Dooley.